We will begin our briefing with a presentation by Mike Carroll, Deputy Managing Director. We're also joined by principals of the Office of Emergency Management and the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. Mike, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we'll go through this presentation and we'll begin with a timeline of what took place and what we've been doing to try to address the situation. Folks are probably aware on Friday evening, there was a spill from a latex product manufacturing company in Bristol Township, Bucks County. This was shortly before midnight on Friday, March 24th. Fortunately, we were able to get indications of the spill through the Delaware Valley early warning system. And based on those indications, the Philadelphia Water Department was able to, throughout all of Saturday morning and Saturday day, conduct some evaluations and try to develop a plan of action. We've been monitoring the situation in the river with our partners in Bucks County, with Aqua Water, a utility that's based in Bucks County, also with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection and city agencies involved in emergency response. As a result of the spill, the Philadelphia Water Department shut intakes at the Baxter water treatment plant, which draws its water from the Delaware River. We were able to evaluate that we had water that was within the plant that could last us into this morning. But overnight, we needed to open the plant to bring in raw water for the Delaware River at 12:15 a.m. And we kept that open until 5 a.m. This morning. And the reason for that is that we have to maintain minimal levels of water in order to sustain ordinary operations. Fire safety is another cause that we need to make sure we have enough water for, and so that we can evaluate the water as it comes in and correct our approach as necessary. Out of an abundance of caution this morning, at about 10:15 a.m., we did an on-camera press event, and we recommended that residents may choose to switch to bottled water while we got a better handle on the situation. This followed a press event last night where we notified individuals, the public at large rather, that we were monitoring the situation and gave the best information we had on hand in terms of our response. This morning, we felt comfortable. We had information that people could continue to use water until this afternoon, and that we would update them this afternoon with more information. And so we're giving that update now, and I'm pleased to say that we have enough water within the system, which we are clear has no contamination. And we're also clear there has not been any contamination in the Philadelphia water system. And we have enough water to sustain safe use for drinking, cooking, all purposes through at least 11:59 p.m. Monday, March 27th. So we will advise people there's no need to go out and buy bottled water. If you want to store water, you should feel free to draw it from your tap, store it in a bottle. You can put it in a pitcher, put it in your fridge. There's no need at this time for people to be rushing out and buying bottled water. I do want to let people know that this evening, I should say 12:15 a.m. Tomorrow, Monday, March 27th, we are going to open the intakes again. And we will take in water for a few hours in order to make sure we have the minimum levels of water in the raw water basin. And that water will take between 24 and 48 hours to work through the system before there's any chance for it to be at anyone's tap. We'll continue to evaluate that water to test it, and we'll be updating people with information throughout the night and into the morning tomorrow. Based on all the testing we're seeing, the situation is one where the potential for contamination is diminishing over time. We are fortunate that during a flyover conducted by the Philadelphia Police Department and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, they saw no visual evidence of any plumes in the Delaware River. And so far, testing of river water is also revealing no levels of contamination near the Baxter intake that we would be concerned about. So we will continue to both monitor and test the water in the vicinity of the Baxter water treatment facility, and to evaluate models to understand the likelihood that there's any contamination that we're not seeing and we're not able to test, to identify through testing. So with that in mind, our hope is that we can report to people tomorrow at some point in the evening that the concern has fully passed. But again, I want to reiterate, through tomorrow, people can be absolutely comfortable using their tap water. They can drink it, they can cook with it, they can store it if they want to have that water. And we will continue to provide information as it becomes available to us. And we want to make sure that all of the decision making is based on the data that we have at hand. So if people want more details and more information, we would ask them to log on to phila.gov, where there's information there. Also, water.phila.gov has specific information about the water department, in addition to detail on these updates. And we've just put out some new information on Twitter to the effect that I've just shared with you. That's the @phila.gov, the @PhilaOEM, and @PhilaH2O handles on Twitter. Again, I just want to advise people it is safe to drink the water. We will keep you up to date as the situation progresses. We certainly appreciate the anxiety that people may have experienced today. I just want to let folks know that we've shared the information that we have out of an abundance of caution and in the interest of full transparency with the public. I would add, though, that this is a case, this situation reminds us that we should follow the best practice that all households and residents should try and maintain 2 days of water on hand in their house. This situation is just one of many situations where it would be important, it may be important to have drinking water on hand. We sometimes experience breaks in water mains, in situations like the shutdown around the pandemic. There's a variety of other conditions from power outages, health emergencies where people will want to have drinking water in their household. So in the future, we would just advise people try and keep 2 days of water in your household. Fortunately, in this example, today in this event, we feel confident that people can use the tap water through Monday. We will continue to give people information so that they know exactly what they need to do. But again, that's always going to be good preparedness measures that businesses and residents can take for their own benefit. So I will stop there. We're prepared to answer any questions. And we, like you were said, are joined by the Health Commissioner, the Water Commissioner, representatives from Water Operations, and Carol Ketton from the Office of Emergency Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So we will now move to Q&A for members of the press. Again, this is an active, fluid situation, so we ask that only one representative from each media outlet asks questions. Reporters are asked to limit their questions to 2 or fewer, and again, we're limiting the topics to questions related to the spill. If you would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand function. We also have a Spanish interpreter available. So we're going to start with Eddie at Fox 29. Eddie?
Hey guys, wondering, so I know the water is safe until midnight tomorrow. When will there be, do you anticipate knowing, past that, when things will be safe again, as a first question? And what are the things that concerned you guys if this latex spill, this chemical itself, what were the concerns, I guess, originally to move to have people going to bottled water earlier in the day?
Okay, so I'll try and take on both questions. I might ask for some support from some of my colleagues here. So we will provide an update at some point this evening as we get more information. And like I said, we will continue testing probably throughout the rest of the week, and we'll provide updates based on that testing. The fact is that we do expect under normal conditions for the water in the Delaware to flush itself out. There are certainly some tidal effects. It was probably good news that there was rain yesterday. That extra volume certainly helped move water down the watershed, out the Delaware and out towards the bay. And what we expect is in a matter of days, the water in the Delaware should be okay. Like I said, though, we do need to take in water tonight. And so we need to test that water that enters our system tonight. And we will be testing that water throughout the day. And that water will take about 24 hours for it to work its way through. And if at any point we find contamination, then we will let people know about that. But in the alternative case where we do not find any contamination, we would expect that water to last us through Tuesday. And while we're also monitoring conditions in the Delaware River and doing the modeling that we need to do, under ideal circumstances, we can also tell people on Tuesday that the situation is passed and essentially give people the all clear. I'll speak a little bit about the chemicals that were in the water. So I will try not to mispronounce the names, but bear with me. There is a chemical called butyl acrylate, ethyl acrylate, and methyl methacrylate. And butyl acrylate in particular is a chemical that was identified in the spill in East Palestine. And so we understand that there are some known health effects, and there are established thresholds in terms of the parts per billion that the EPA feels are safe. And so we wanted to monitor for that chemical to make sure that we're below those thresholds. And we also want to monitor for those other chemicals to establish that they're not present in the water either. And again, I want to reiterate, we have not detected any of these contaminants in our water, and we'll continue to use that as our first basis for any decision making that we make, that there be no trace of these chemicals in the water. But of course, if we do detect any trace at all, we will communicate with our own health professionals and reach out to DEP to evaluate further actions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. Are there any other questions from members of the press? All right, Maddie Hanna from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Maddie, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to ask about the timing of communication around this issue. There was a news conference at 10:15, as you mentioned this morning, and I don't believe that people got direct alerts from the city until sometime after that, including alerts to cell phones this afternoon. I'm just wondering if you can speak to how the city decided to communicate with residents about this and why there was a time delay between the news conference and direct communication.
I can tell you that immediately after that conference, we entered into a call with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to evaluate information that we were receiving at that time. One of the questions that we were dealing with was what was the appropriate time of day to tell people that it would be safe for them to drink their water. We had a couple options to work with, but based on the most conservative approach, which is what we went with, we decided to tell people earlier in the day, and that was about 11:15, that we felt confident that they could use water up until about 2 p.m. I can also tell you that around 2 p.m. we started to get new information that made us feel a little bit more comfortable. We had more time to work with, and we did want to update that information that went out in the morning, but we didn't have it all locked down until shortly before we entered into this conversation. So that's why we held on to the update until about 4:30 today, which is what I'm giving you today, that we're confident that the water is safe to drink until Monday, 11:59 p.m. I also want to take the opportunity to let you know that we've been in contact with the Philadelphia School District. There will be no closures of delays of schools tomorrow, and we see no disruptions to any essential services or city services. Folks should know that any daycares associated with the city or affiliated with the city, any of those programs should also be operating on their normal schedule.
Thank you, Mike. Is that all, Maddie? Do you have more questions? All right, I think she's good. Gonna move on to Geisha Torres at Univision. Geisha?
Hi, thank you. My name is Geisha Torres from Univision, Channel 65. I want to ask, and I want to know if you can do it in Spanish. If the people can use the water at home, if they can be sure si pueden tomar un baño, si se pueden cepillar, si pueden cocinar con el agua, si ya es seguro usar el agua normalmente en la casa.
Yes, hi. I would like to ask if people can, is it safe for them to use the water at home, like to bathe, to cook, to brush their teeth? Is it basically safe to use water at home?
Yes, it is safe for folks to use their water at home. It will remain safe at least through Monday, 11:59 p.m. And we will give people information throughout tonight and throughout the day tomorrow to make sure they have updated information and know what to do following Monday night.
Sí, es seguro y las personas pueden usar el agua en su casa para cualquier cosa. Estamos diciendo que hasta mañana lunes, 11:59 p.m., esto de seguro usar el agua de la casa. Cualquier actualización, novedad, le vamos a dejar saber entre hoy y mañana para que las personas sepan qué tienen que hacer y qué no deben hacer.
I would like to add that we look forward to giving people notification that all is clear tomorrow, but please stay tuned and pay attention to any information coming from the city.
Quiero rectificar que cualquier actualización o alguna novedad nosotros le vamos a saber inmediatamente al público, pero claro, estén pendientes, queden sincronizados para cualquier otra información nueva que tengamos que surja para que estén informados. Así que estén pendientes a toda noticia que salga de la ciudad.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias, Marilinda. Geisha, are you good?
Sí, quería hacer una segunda pregunta. ¿Las personas pueden tomar agua del grifo directamente o tienen que comprar el agua mineral en los supermercados donde vendan el agua?
So, second question, can people drink tap water
Yes.
or do they need to buy bottled spring water in the supermarket?
We advise people that they can drink their tap water. There's no need to buy water. If they want to store water, they should store water from their tap in a bottle or a pitcher, and they can stick it in their fridge, or refrigerator, and it will be fine for them to drink moving forward.
Estamos sugiriendo a la gente que sí, que pueden tomar agua de grifo. Si quieren almacenar agua, les aconsejamos que amanecen agua del grifo, lo pueden almacenar en una jarra, botella, pero sí es seguro tomar el agua del grifo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geisha. We're going to move to Corey Sharper with WHYY. Corey?
Hey everyone, I just wanted to know what measurements you're using to determine the water safeness and how are you coming up with the time limits for when the water is safe to consume? The text alert that went out, a lot of people got it at 1 o'clock and it basically said you can drink up until 2 o'clock. You know, how are you coming up with the time parameters?
I'm going to take the second question first, Corey, and then I might ask for some help from Ben Jewell, who's our Deputy Commissioner for Water Operations, to take on the testing question. So what we do, as I mentioned before, is we take in water from the Delaware River, and we tend to do it between midnight and the early hours of the morning. And this morning we did it between midnight and about 5 a.m. in the morning. That water sits in a raw water basin for a period of time before it starts its path through the water treatment facility. And so the water that we took in the night before that, similarly, before the event, similarly was in the basin. When we got notification about the spill on Friday, we closed the intake and stopped taking water in. And so we were operating the water treatment facility on water that was brought in before the spill. That water will not last forever, and we cannot let the treatment facility run dry because it will damage the equipment and it won't be available for regular use. So for example, fighting fires for other uses that don't involve drinking the water. So we understood we had enough water to work with until some point today, but there is some analysis that goes into figuring out exactly how much water you have to work with. And as that analysis was being conducted, we made the decision that we wanted to get information in front of people that was as conservative as practical out of an abundance of caution, so that we did not either run out of water in the treatment facility or we had essentially zero risk that anyone was ingesting any water that had any contamination. We're able to update our analysis of the flow of water through the water treatment facility throughout the day today. and we were able to get testing information back from the water immediately outside the treatment facility and throughout the treatment facility as well, in order to make the update that we just made, which allows us to say that we are safe until Monday, 11:59 p.m. tomorrow. Ben, do you want to address the testing question?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Ben Jewell, Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Philadelphia Water Department. As Mike mentioned, we did open the intakes last night in order to fill our raw water basin. At that time, we collected a series of samples. We sampled the river water just outside our intakes. Immediately upon bringing that water into the treatment plant, we add powder activated carbon as our first treatment technology. Samples were then taken inside our raw water basin at multiple different locations. Those tests were collected with the intention of understanding whether the water we had brought into the treatment process contained any contaminants of concern. As Mike mentioned earlier, we were engaged in a regional response with partner utilities, regulatory agencies, and we worked with one of our partner utilities to provide those samples. They conducted a chemical analysis that the results are a presence-absence result. And those results all indicated the absence of the chemicals of concern, both in the river water samples that were taken outside of our intake and also in the raw water basin after powder activated carbon treatment.
If I may add, as the water commissioner, my name is Randy Heyman. One thing I want to stress, when this took place midnight on going into Friday into Saturday, once we were aware of it, we have basically been in a series of meetings from Saturday morning to now. And in those meetings, as Ben had mentioned, we were talking with government agencies, we were talking with the companies involved, we were talking with government officials, we were talking with DEP. At the same time, we're trying to analyze what the data that we have. As the water department, we're responsible for the health and safety of this community. And so we want to err on the side of being cautious. And at the same time, we have a responsibility to make sure that we make decisions on reliable data, thought out, reliable data. And so at the same time, we're having these series of meetings or having conferences, news conferences, we're getting new data. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we review it, analyze it, and come back with a good course of action that ties directly to what we know at that period of time. That's what we have to do to protect the health and safety of this community. And we made every effort to do that in this situation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Corey, are you good?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks. We're gonna go to Leah Uko with Channel 10.
Hi, thank you. Just a quick question. I know you said tomorrow you plan to update people. Any ballpark around what time? Do you think it'll be 7 in the evening, 9? And then my other question is, will you send out some type of push alert to people's phones again, the way you did earlier with updates, or should they just go to your website?
So I'll answer the first question, and then I'm going to ask Carolyn to talk about the second question. We're going to give another update this evening, and our goal is to do so before 11 p.m., but we'll certainly make sure everybody's aware when they can expect more information. We will be continuing the blog to update the blog information on the phila.gov site continuously. And so people who want to make sure they have the most up-to-date information that's been confirmed and vetted should check the phila.gov site on their blog. We did just begin the process of pushing out information through social media, like I said, about 4:30. And so what I need Carolyn to speak to is whether and when folks might expect the Ready Alert system to provide information. So Carolyn, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mike. So earlier what was pushed out was a wireless emergency alert. That's basically what Amber Alerts are. They make the loud noise on the phone. So that is a capability that our office has, the Office of Emergency Management, is to push that out We push that out at the direction of the incident command, which in this case is the water department, and also in consultation with the crisis communications team at the city that's been activated for this incident. So we plan to send another wireless emergency alert, or a WEA, out immediately following this press conference conclusion. In the meantime, we've already sent out through other channels, other city channels, social media, blogs, etc., all this updated information, and it's sequenced in a way so that not everyone's flooding websites all at the same time. So we want to be mindful of that too.
So just for thank you, just for clarification. So you already did the social media pushes. The wireless emergency alert, another alert will come to people's phones immediately after this presser, and that's coming from the Office of Emergency Management,
which maintains the system, yes, on behalf of the city, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And I know Maddie with Inquirer has another question. Maddie, go ahead.
Hi, yes, just one quick follow-up and then one additional question. I just want to make sure I understand in terms of the timing of the communication and the alerts earlier. Are you saying in terms of the reason that an alert wasn't sent until around 1 p.m., even though the city had given this press conference hours earlier in which it was telling people you may not want to drink tap water after 2? Are you saying that that is because information was evolving after that news conference, or was there some other reason? And my second question is just, when you're saying people don't need to go out and buy bottled water, is that because, are you saying even if there is contamination found tomorrow, that it likely wouldn't last for that long and people have enough opportunity over the next 24 hours to store tap water? Or I guess, what is the reason that you're saying people don't need to buy bottled water if there is still a possibility here of some contamination that would be discovered tomorrow?
Okay, I'll take the second question first. The reason I'm saying that is like you're saying, we expect people to have some capacity to store water that they can use. We're not saying people can't buy bottled water, but I think a lot of folks that are out there buying cases of water don't need to be doing that. Cases of water probably is a little bit more than anyone needs to do, especially since you can still drink the water out of your tap. And if you feel like you need to store it for half a day after that, a day after that, in most cases, a pitcher or a couple bottles should do most households fine. So if we want to talk about the timeframes involved, I think the key thing is that the information has been evolving all day long, and we wanted to make sure when we put something out, it was the best information that we had. Some of the information does take some time to work its way through the systems. And so, that process of getting it out the door, so to speak, can take a little bit of time. But we did leave that press event and did have immediate conversations to make sure we were fully up to date with what the data said. And that's what worked its way into that alert that went out prior to 2. So if there's more question on that, I don't know if you want to say anything, Carolyn.
I think you covered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're now going to go to Saja Purple Blackwell.
How you doing, everyone? Thank you very much. My question is a really quick general question. You said that families should be stocking up at least 2 days of water. Knowing that people may not really understand how do you measure 2 days of water? Are you saying, 6 cases of water we should have, gallons of water? Like, what is 2 days of water supply?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we should do is probably provide some information and make sure it's available just as a general thing. And I want to be real clear-sighted. That's not something I'm saying as a result of this event. That's sort of like a common emergency preparedness piece of advice that we want to make sure people have. And so people should monitor how much water they use over a couple of days and think about that when they make that decision. And it depends on how large your household is, whether you have elderly folks in your household or small children in your household. Certainly these are things that you could consider when you're deciding what 2 days means for you and your household. There are some pieces of information, I think, from a health perspective that we could incorporate. We'll look at the information that we put online, and this is an opportunity for us to take stock of that. But this is something that, you know, outside of this whole event, like I say, from a preparedness standpoint, it's one of these pearls of wisdom, let's put it that way, we want people to hold on to, because for a variety of reasons, it could be the pipe that's right outside your house that breaks. It takes 2 or 3 days to fix. You're going to want to make sure you have some drinking water on hand, so you don't need to worry about it. And the rule of thumb is to have 2 days of water for that.
Thank you for that clarity. So you will put out something publicly to kind of give people a gauge of, you know, how on a regular basis for emergencies?
Yeah, this is one of those teachable moments, so we're not going to let this one slide by us.
Thank you.
All right.
This is the last call for questions. All right, not seeing any other hands in the chat. Thanks, everyone. Oh, Keisha wants to ask another question in Spanish. Yes, go ahead.
No se oye.
Are you able to unmute yourself,
Tiene
Keisha?
que prender el micrófono, que ya no se oye.
Ok, sorry.
There you go.
Ok, voy a hacer la pregunta en español para que me ayudes. Hay muchísima gente afuera tratando de conseguir agua, los anaqueles están vacíos. Entonces, ¿cómo calmamos a las personas que están muy preocupadas porque le dicen que consiguieron químicos en el agua, en el río, y que ahora pues están diciendo que sí es seguro tomar agua, que no hay que salir a comprar? Entonces, ¿cómo calmamos a estas personas que están desesperadas afuera buscando agua por todas partes?
So we have a lot of people that are really worried because they're going to supermarkets and the shelves are empty. There's no water, bottled water in any of the shelves in any of the supermarkets or stores. How do we calm these people down? Because they were told that there were chemicals in the water from the river, but now we're telling them that everything's safe, that the water's safe, and these people are desperate because they can't find bottled water anywhere. And, you know, how do we calm them down?
Okay, so a couple things. I want to reiterate, there was never any contamination in Philadelphia Water Department's system. There was contamination in the Delaware River, but we shut off the intake to the river and we're operating off of water that was not contaminated. When we opened the intake, we were able to verify we brought in water that was not contaminated. So currently there is no contamination in the Philadelphia system. And so people should feel confident drinking their tap water now. So if people are concerned, and to go back to the question that we just talked to, the last couple, what I would suggest people do is to obtain bottles and glass bottles, plastic bottles, go to their tap and fill those bottles with water and seal them up and stick them in the corner, stick them in the fridge. You can buy as many bottles as you want, and you can fill up as much water as you're comfortable having and just store it away. And that way you'll have it in case there's nothing about the water you're buying at the store that is better than the water that you could get from your tap today and all day tomorrow. So take the opportunity to do that. Okay, you do not need to go out to the store and buy water. There is not and has not been any contamination in the water that's coming out of your tap.
Ok, voy a reiterar que nunca estuvo contaminada el agua en Filadelfia, ya que inmediatamente el departamento de alcantarillado de agua, ellos cerraron la válvula del agua que estaba entrando del río. Esa válvula se cerró, así que esa agua nuestra nunca se contaminó. Hemos estado operando con agua que no tiene ningún tipo de contaminación, así que creo que el público tengan buena confianza de que pueden ingerir el agua del grifo, ya que esa agua nunca ha sido contaminada. No hay diferencia entre esa agua y el agua que están comprando botellada en los supermercados. No hay ninguna diferencia, así que lo que les recomiendo es que compren botellas, sea de vidrio, sea de cristal o sea de plástico, y las llenen del agua del grifo para que puedan almacenar agua en la casa del agua del grifo, sea que las pongan en la nevera, la pongan donde tengan espacio en la cocina, pero básicamente sería buena idea almacenar agua del grifo ahora mismo ya que no sabemos qué va a pasar porque, por ejemplo, por hoy y mañana, el agua que están saliendo del grifo es agua que no está nada contaminada, no tiene nada que ver con agua del río. Así que bueno que empiecen a almacenar esa agua, ya que no sabemos qué va a pasar a partir de mañana. Así que por favor, no estén desesperados y no estén con necesidad de comprar agua del supermercado ni agua de botella, ya que el agua que sale del grifo está totalmente segura y no tiene ningún tipo de contaminación.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you both. Maddie has one last question. I think we have time. Maddie, go ahead.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to clarify, you said the Philadelphia police did a flyover of the river. I didn't quite catch what they were looking for or what they observed from that.
The police, along with the Department of Environmental Protection, did a flyover the river. And that's useful if there's something in the river which you can get visual confirmation of. And in this case, because we were talking about essentially, ingredients that go into latex paint, we would have been able to see kind of a white plume under the river surface, or in the river at the surface, under the surface. And so this was something that was visible near the spill in the tributary to the Delaware. And my understanding was that there was some evidence at some point along sections of the Delaware. But what we saw after all the rains yesterday, and with the tidal effects over the last day and a half, is that plume is not in evidence. They're not seeing any visual evidence that there's contamination in the river at this point in time. And that was about, I think, noon we got that information. So the situation has improved since then.
Thank you, Mike. Are you good, Maddie?
Yes, thank you.
All right, no problem. And one last question by Eddie, Fox 29. Eddie, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, just one last question here. So I know this is very early in the investigation, but any idea how this happened or why this might have happened? If there's a police investigation going into or anything like that?
So the investigation will not be conducted by the city of Philadelphia, any agencies within the city of Philadelphia. It's my understanding that the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection is probably your best source to get any feedback about how that's going to be undertaken.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. All right, this concludes our briefing. Thanks everyone for joining. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Recording stopped.